Great. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone for joining us as well on this APDA Passport to Research series. My name is Dave Grosby. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's back in November of 2018, and I'm very fortunate to have a connection with Gene and APDA here in the Pacific Northwest to get information that I needed to know and to learn how to navigate as best you can this path that we've all been forced down. And this is an opportunity for me to give back, and I really appreciate the opportunity to do so. I'm very happy to be involved in this series. Now, APDA's dual mission is providing help for today for those living with Parkinson's and hope for tomorrow by investing in critical research projects. Research is what we are here to talk about today in particular. APDA has invested nearly $51 million in the critical research since 1961, and the Northwest chapter is proud to be the sole funder of the Parkinson's Disease Registry, which helps speed up the research process by connecting researchers to willing participants. Now, keep an eye out on your post-event email for more information about that registry and how to get involved. There really is some amazing research going on right here in the Northwest right now. And we hope through this series you will learn more about the work being done, the people behind it, and also how you can be involved. As we said at the beginning, your questions are encouraged. And if you have questions for our researcher, please type that question into the Q&A section and we will get to them. Before I introduce today's speaker, I want to thank the sponsors of this program: gold sponsor Niagara Bottling and silver sponsor Kiowa Kerwin and Athera Pharma. Their support of APDA and the value of educational programs like this is immensely appreciated. Today's topic has to do with those of you who are in the early stages of the disease, and it's about trials to slow progression. Joining us is Dr. Pinky Agarwal, a neurologist at EvergreenHealth's Booth Gardner's Parkinson's Care Center in Kirkland. She's also a professor of neurology at the University of Washington, board certified in neurology and fellowship trained in movement disorders at the Neurological Institute in the Columbian Presbyterian Medical Center. Dr. Agarwal has served in the role of principal investigator and sub-investigator in more than 100 clinical trials. During her work at Evergreen Health, which treats patients of diverse backgrounds, Dr. Agarwal has developed an interest in engaging underrepresented groups in clinical research. In her new role as co-chair of the Healthcare Outcomes and Disparates Working Group of the Parkinson Study Group, she intends to continue her work in improving minority engagement in clinical trials. Doctor, thanks for joining us. It's great to see you. And for those who don't know, tell us how you got involved in doing Parkinson's research.
Well, I've been involved in the Parkinson's field for almost 15 or 16, actually 18 years now. And it's amazing that even during my time of engagement, how many new treatment options have come to market, and a lot of these have been engaged in these clinical trials. And it is, there's a point where only engagement of a person with Parkinson's can help in the development of a trial. So early on, healthy populations, they can help with saying, okay, is a medication safe? Is it handled okay by the liver or the kidneys? But when it comes to, can it be effective in treating Parkinson's, only a person with Parkinson's can help out in that. And just over the course of my trial, initially when I was involved in a few clinical trials, and then, those came to market, and it was so exciting that, to see a medication start right from the infancy, going through the development, reporting on benefits, side effects, and then it going before the FDA, and then having my patients actually have access to the treatment. So it's just very exciting to walk through that journey with a patient and with a medication and eventually see it come to market. So that's what led to my interest in Parkinson's clinical trials.
Now, today we're here to talk about the trials to slow the progression of PD, particularly in those early on in the disease. Why is this particular area so important?
So, we have several medications now for the treatment of Parkinson's. We have meds that can help with motor symptoms. We have, meds that could help with slowness, stiffness, meds that could help with memory. The one glaring lack of treatment we have right now is for something to slow progression. So we understand a lot about mechanism. Our knowledge is increasing every day, and we are at a spot where we are waiting for that last breakthrough. Okay, what can we do to not just treat, but change the natural trajectory of the condition? So if we had something that was neuroprotective or something that would slow progression, maybe we could slow down that natural trajectory of where one would be in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years with the condition. And it is, once people start treatment, right, when you are several years into the condition, it becomes a little trickier to evaluate, because then one is on a lot of symptomatic treatment. There are other medications, so it becomes trickier what's benefit due to the study medication and what is benefit from the prescribed medications. That's why involvement early on at time of diagnosis can be very beneficial, not only to the person participating, but for the wider community, because people who are further along now may not be able to participate in neuroprotective trials. They can participate in other trials, but it becomes challenging to be eligible for neuroprotective trials.
Before we get into the specifics of the trial, or one of the trials you're working on right now, are we making progress in your mind in figuring out ways to slow the progression of Parkinson's?
Yes. So one of the trials, which is the PADOVA trial, it's very exciting. It's sponsored by Roche. And the mechanism is that the medication, we know one of the abnormal proteins in Parkinson's is alpha-synuclein, which form blobs of aggregates called Lewy body. So the mechanism of this medication is to try to go, it's injected intravenously, and they've shown that it can cross the blood-brain barrier, and then it goes and binds to the alpha-synuclein, forms like an antigen antibody kind of a complex, and then it's taken up by the macrophages, or that it kind of gets out of the brain as a complex. And it's quite far along, because this is the trial that we are doing now is a phase 2B trial. And they've gone through phase 1, phase 2A trials, in which they've already looked at, they've been able to prove that though we are giving it intravenously and not through the spinal fluid, which is how typically, you try to get things into the brain, it actually does cross the blood-brain barrier. Enough of it is getting into the brain. And they have been able to show already that it binds into complexes and gets it out. So this is now the second leg of that trial to prove, okay, not only is it safe, but how effective it is. So it's quite far along, and it looks very exciting so far. And this is an international study.
This is the phase 2B1, I love the name, the randomized double-blind placebo-controlled multi-center study.
Exactly.
That's a mouthful. And can you maybe get a few more details on that? How exactly that proceeds? You gave us some of the specifics there, but how does this process go along? How many visits do you have? How does it work for people?
So basically, patients should be fairly recently diagnosed with Parkinson's, and recent means within approximately the past 6 months. I mean, they need to be diagnosed for at least 6 months. That's because, okay, early on it can be, oh, is this essential tremor? So it's like diagnostically verified. And then they should not be more than 3 years from time of diagnosis. And they do not need to have a confirmed DAT scan, though a DAT scan will be done as part of the trial. They need to be between the ages of 50 to 85 years. And this is one of the unique trials in which patients actually can be on a little bit of symptomatic treatment. And by low dose, I mean they could either be on MAO-B inhibitors, which is rasagiline, up to 1 milligram, or they could be on selegiline up to a maximum of 10 milligrams a day, or they may be on carbidopa levodopa, as long as the levodopa dose is not more than 450 milligrams a day. Now, if they are on something called Rytary, then we'll have to calculate and figure out what that equivalent dose is. But if they are, and as long as their liver function is okay and they don't have any other significant active medical problems going on, then they can be screened for the trial. The trial for now, it is like you mentioned, the mouthful, double blind, meaning that the patient doesn't know what they're getting, and we at the site don't know what they're getting. And the purpose of that is so that none of us get biased about, what the outcomes are. And then double, and then placebo controlled, meaning that people could get either the active drug or a placebo. However, before the regulatory authorities right now, we are waiting for approval for an extension phase. So after people get about 76 weeks of either placebo or double blind, there's high likelihood that everyone could be eligible to get the active medication. And that active medication could be over a period of 104 weeks. So, and then initially, if they are eligible, they qualify and they get into the trial, then there'll be a DAT scan to confirm Parkinson's. There'll be an MRI to make sure there's nothing else like a structural problem, because Parkinson's we know is a chemical problem. Right. There's not a tumor or anything in the brain. And then every 1 month they have to come to the site and they get an intravenous infusion. The infusion goes over a period of approximately 1 to 1.5 hours. And then you're under observation for a couple of hours after that. And this happens every 1 month for 76 weeks. And after that, there'll be an optional. If you want to continue, you could sign up to be on the active medication for another 104 weeks.
Before we get to some questions, how can people get involved in, or can they still get involved in this particular study?
So if they meet these criteria that we mentioned, they can, and obviously you can't remember all of this, but if you think you are, say, within 3 years of diagnosis of Parkinson's, you can reach out to us. And if you can have your medical records from either your neurologist or whichever providers treating your Parkinson's, if you have that note sent to us, we can look through it and we can connect with you. And that number to call us is 425-899-5385.
Got a couple of questions here, and this one I'm going to try and pronounce it correctly. Is there good evidence that the alpha syneuclein, I'm guessing, SYNUCTION, is a cause rather than a result of Parkinson's disease?
So, the alpha syneuclein, it's normally present in the brain. In Parkinson's, the protein misfolds and starts accumulating. So that accumulation it's not entirely clear whether it happens as a reaction and it's trying to protect the brain against some other toxin, or whether that's the primary cause that's then leading to a cascade of reactions. So no, it's not entirely clear whether that accumulation is reactive or actually the culprit.
Where do you stand on the benefits of exercise slowing the progression of PD?
So exercise is the one modality that can help with every symptom of Parkinson's. So we know Parkinson's has motor symptoms, that's a stiffness, slowness, tremor. You have non-motor, which could be memory problems, anxiety, depression, bladder, bowel problems, and pretty much any study that's been done looking at any modality of exercise versus no exercise has shown exercise arm to do better, and any amount of exercise or any type of exercise is better than no exercise. And sometimes the question comes up, oh, should we be taking medicines or should we do exercise? They've looked at that too. And the best group tends to be the one that's optimally treated with medications and is exercising. And generally, there's not one particular exercise that one needs to do. One is more likely to do what one enjoys. So whatever you've done in the past, whether it's, walking or running or swimming or, just going to the gym or just walking your dog, whatever you do and enjoy, and if you can do consistently for at least like half an hour, 45 minutes a day, is great.
Another question, are there any dietary recommendations to help with PD, whether it helps to slow progression or not?
So in terms of dietary recommendations, Parkinson's tends to be constipating. And so anything that helps with constipation in terms of adequate hydration, as well as enough fiber and fluid, that helps with preventing constipation. And sorry, 1 second. I just need to actually sign something. Sorry.
No problem.
Sorry, I'm doing this talk from the clinic. 1 second.
Dave, it's Jen. I can't seem to post this in the Q&A section, but there is a question in the chat. Can you see that one about the trials from Judy?
Let me get a look there. I bet I can. Let's see. From Judy, you said?
Yeah, it's the very bottom. Well, I can just ask that question.
Yeah, why don't you? Go ahead.
All right. So the question was, do any of the trials or medications you speak of cover Parkinsonism's, mostly mobility?
So by Parkinsonism, what that generally covers is either drug-induced, like there are some medications that can block dopamine, such as some medications to treat depression, or other medications for bipolar, even some medications for nausea, such as Reglan, they can be dopamine blocking. For those medications, generally treating with dopaminergic medications generally is not helpful, because there's another medicine that's actually blocking the dopamine receptor. However, the other Parkinsonian syndromes, such as multiple systems atrophy, or dementia, DLB, or dementia with Lewy body, or patients who have CBD, which is corticobasal ganglionic degeneration. For some of those conditions, sometimes the stiffness or slowness will have benefit with low-dose carbidopa, and also with progressive supranuclear palsy. Some people will have some improvement in gait and stiffness with addition of dopaminergic medications. Some of these conditions also come with restless leg syndrome, and adding dopaminergic medications may help with that. And coming back to that previous question, in which there was a question about diet. So Parkinson's is constipating, so enough fluid and fiber is helpful. As far as, is there any particular diet that we know is helpful or harmful? Not necessarily. Again, it's just whatever is healthy for the heart is healthy for the brain. And there's talk about Mediterranean diet, which tends to be rich in, it's low on red meat, little amount of fish there, some nuts, olive oil, lots of fresh fruits, vegetables. There's been a lot of work for that in memory, and it's been shown to be helpful. So low in red meat and enough fiber fluids.
A couple of questions about the study, particularly where is it being conducted, and can people only in this area participate?
No, this is actually an international study. So people across the US and international can participate. The best way to find out a local site is if you go to clinicaltrials.gov and you put in the name of this trial, PADOVA, Padova. It'll show all the sites across the globe that are doing the trial. And you can go in and see what your closest site is. And sometimes, you can call that site if you're still far away. Sometimes there can be some reimbursement for travel, but it would be reimbursement to your closest site, not to a site across the country.
Another question about the study in particular: can you just have had a recent DAT scan, and not need a new one for the trial, or do you have to have a new one?
Within a certain period of time. So if it's just been recently done, you may not need it. But sometimes the study DAT scan has some particular specifications, and they track that along the study. So that might be case by case. It may still be needed during the study.
Okay, Mark is wondering.
It's been done very recently, may not need to be repeated, but a DAT scan maybe if it's just recent within a couple of months, you may not need it, but longer than that, they maybe need to repeat it.
Okay. Mark asks, haven't there been dozens of trials promising disease-modifying agents in the past few decades, and so far all have failed?
Exactly. So that is why there is no disease-modifying treatment, that's FDA approved right now. However, we also have to see that there are things that have come and gone, and people have just taken it because they've believed that, oh, it's neuroprotective. And so do we want people to keep taking medications that are not helpful? So if anything, those other trials have, have obviated the need for taking meds like coenzyme Q. There was a time when it showed benefit, but then the clinical trials did not show benefit. But a lot of people were spending a lot of money, spending on coenzyme Q. And so, they could save that money and use it for something else that is maybe symptomatic treatment. So, but our knowledge about Parkinson's, the mechanisms, the genetics, all of that has evolved and grown over time. So just because nothing worked in the past, our knowledge was limited to at that time, and it's grown exponentially over the years. So there is, good optimism. I mean, we can be optimistic that there will be something in the future to slow progression.
And I'll answer the next question. We will provide in an email a contact telephone number and the name of the study. We'll do that for you, and in your post email, Jen will include that. How's it going in improving minority engagement in these trials?
So, after we submitted, Evergreen has received a Michael J. Fox grant, also with the same intent to improve minority engagement. And minority engagement also includes women. Most people participating right now in clinical trials across the globe have been mainly males, and Parkinson's is more common in males. But even then, there's like a disparity between a number of males or lack of women participating in trials. So one of the, there are various hypotheses, there's childcare responsibilities, etc. So one of the things that we are doing in this Michael J. Fox grant that we've received is looking at if some particular subset is not engaging in research, trying to understand what are those challenges. Because once we understand those challenges, there is maybe more we can do to address or remove those. One of the things we know for sure is language barrier, right? Mm-hmm. Most of the trial material is all in English. In some places, we have some Spanish consent forms. Other than that, it's case by case, so it can be challenging. So as part of this MJ Fox grant, patients are coming in, they're doing a one-time questionnaire. And in the questionnaire, it's all about perceptions to research. Is it mainly actual challenges, or is it also challenges about perception? Perceptions about, why I shouldn't participate in research, or just mistrust of the healthcare system, or so the questions are all centered. They present different scenarios, that if there is a research trial in which, say, there was a medication, or there was not a medication, a research trial with a blood draw, how likely are you to participate? If there was one with a spinal tap, are you likely, not likely? So that with that feedback we get, we can also take that feedback into modifying future designs of trials. So earlier, it was all about, okay, some scientists sat down, wrote a protocol, and patients participated. But now there's more and more input. We want people with Parkinson's to contribute to that design of trials, so that we can have trials that, we have to have some number of blood draws and visits, right? Because that's the data we need. But how can we make things slightly simpler with input from people to make them more realistic, so that people are able to, if someone has a job, they can still participate in trials, or if someone has childcare responsibilities, they can still manage to participate. So our minority engagement has gone up. and it's certainly trending in the right direction. Also, we need to go out and engage a little bit more with minority groups, and that's also part of our grant, where we are going out in the community and engaging with different ethnic groups to see if we can improve the engagement in research.
Great information, Dr. Agarwal. It was a pleasure to talk with you again. And I think we've got one last question for you. What is the proposed mechanism of the action of the agent in the trial that you're involved with right now?
So it is sort of like an antibody to alpha-synuclein. So what it does is it goes intravenously, and then the alpha-synuclein, as it's moving from one nerve cell to another, it goes and binds to the abnormal alpha-synuclein, binds it and gets it out, so that we decrease the load of this aggregation inside the nerve cell.
Good enough. Doctor, again, thank you for your time and continued success with your research.
Thank you so much. It was good chatting to you again, Dave.
Our next session of the APDA Passport to Research series will be next Wednesday, July the 20th at the same time, 12 noon Pacific time. This time we'll be joined by two researchers, Dr. Martina Mancini and Dr. Marian Dale from the Balance Disorders Lab at Oregon Health Sciences University in Portland, Oregon. They'll be discussing studies that address, gait and balance challenges in Parkinson's disease. Until then, Jen will be sending out a post-program email, which will give you more information about the trial we just talked about, as well as give you a link to the APDA Northwest YouTube channel, which is where you'll be able to find a recording of this program. Thank you again for joining us. We hope to see you on July the 20th, next Wednesday, for the next installment of APDA's Passport to Research series. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, Dave and Dr. Agarwal, for joining us. And we hope you all join us at our next program. If anyone has any questions or needs anything from APDA, please reach out to us.